Hi guys, in this video I want to show you a very cool little VST synth plugin that's free that I'm now using to create some really massive 808 sounds. Check it out. So I'm working in Energy XT. I just opened up a new project. This will work in any digital audio workstation that you would like to use that hosts VSTs. Now, this is an older VST. This is from TAL Elek7ro. I don't believe they have a 64-bit version of this plugin, so you'd have to use like a 32-bit wrapper or a host that runs in 32-bit. I know in like Reaper, you can run the 32-bit or the 64-bit versions. You can have them both installed. It's called TAL Elek7ro 2. So I have it here in my plugins list. I can just drag and drop it right in here to create a new instrument, a new channel, and here is the plugin. Now here's the default sound. There's a preset in here that got me thinking about using this particular VST machine, virtual analog synthesizer, for an 808, and that is the BS Miami 808XS preset. Now basically it's just a mixture of oscillators. In this case there's a pulse, a sine, and the sub is on square, but there's actually no sub oscillator being mixed in here. So it's just the pulse wave, the sine wave, and then the filter with envelopes. So basically the decay on this is what's giving it that nice long release. You can make it more punchy by taking the decay down, or somewhere in between there. So I was able to use this as a starting point to sort of craft my own 808s. And what I like about using a synthesizer, just like an old 808 drum machine, is that it's synthesis, not a sample-based source, which means I can manipulate this synthesizer throughout the track and say, for a portion of it, I want it to be really tight and punchy and hardly have any release or sustain on that hit. You can automate all of these parameters, and you can tweak it to the song, to the needs of the song. Maybe you want to use an 808 more as the kick and have some kind of bass line, maybe a bass guitar in the same song. So you want to be able to control the length of that sound so it doesn't clash with some other low end frequency information that's going on. Well, you can probably do this in any virtual analog synthesizer. This one just happens to be free, and I thought it sounded really, really good. Now, to make this really shine, I wanted to show you a couple of insert effects that I use. Of course, I always like using Ruby Tube, which is also a free plugin. You can look at something like a saturator or an analog distortion to kind of achieve some of the same effects. This is also a free VST, only 32-bit, unfortunately. So basically, I just leave it on the limiter mode and then start cranking up the drive. And this acts as a couple of things. One, it sort of squashes the sound. So from note to note, there's less dynamic range. If I play higher notes, they may sound louder on certain speakers, as if I play lower notes, they may disappear, or they might really, really be pushing like on a big sub speaker or something like that. So by distorting it and limiting it, it sort of compresses that dynamic range. It also makes it easier to hear on smaller speakers because you have harmonics, and that distortion helps bring that through. And it just sounds more aggressive when it's distorted. So you still have that nice clicky attack, And why I'm using something like this is, of course, you could use like a small kick sample and have like a long sine sub bass or something and sort of do this as well, and you'd have two separate parts that you would either then stack, or you could separate them so you could have just the kick, just the transient portion of the kick for part of the song, and then sort of the sub low frequency information for another part of the song. And so you're basically using a very short kick and a bass together. This is doing that in one instrument. So it's the snappy transient. You want the attack, like the smack of a beater of a kick drum, you know, hitting the side of the kick drum membrane. And then also has that nice long sustained note. So you can play it like a bass instrument, like a bass synthesizer. The other thing I add to this is transpire. And any kind of transient shaper will work for this, but basically I just want to push even further the attack to really pop through. And because the transpire already sort of distorts the high end of the initial transient, to make it punch through a little bit more, I put it after the Ruby tube, so I'm not distorting it twice. And then I can bring my volume down to something that's appropriate for the mix. And I've got a really, really heavy thumping 808 kick and bass instrument, and that's what I like to use it for, a sort of kick drum that I can put into the piano roll and tune it. So let's create a quick pattern here, and then I'll just show you how much you get from something like this, because it's your bass note and it's the attack and weight of a kick drum. This is, I think, why the 808s become so popular in hip hop music. So in this case, I'm writing in the key of D, so I'm putting my kick drum in D, or this 808. Now let's just grab a classic hand clap. This is a sample. This clap, you can see it right here. This is the waveform. What I'm going to do with this clap is pitch it up like 9 semitones, so it's almost more of a snap. That's just a preference. Really, I really just want to show you is how quickly you can create something with this TAL Elek7ro tube, being using it as your 808. So now I'm just using the 808, and I like this sort of, you know, you pitch up to like the last note